Getting into a new anime is hard. And I say this in the most sincere way possible. I mean, you gotta ruffle up the courage to watch one of these things. There's such a vast collection of this stuff, spanning from genre to genre, that you constantly find yourself overwhelmed by the options. You'll probably spend hours looking for that perfect anime, one that'll captivate your interest, leaving you with a sense of self-discovery. And when you actually watch it, this is shit. And this leads me to my main problem. Time wasting. I think any species that doesn't run on pure instinct can agree that the concept of wasting time is fucking horrendous. Nobody wants to do something, or in this context, wants something that probably won't satisfy them in the long run. And it doesn't only apply to watching lackluster anime. It corresponds to all types of media and entertainment. As human beings, we look towards these things in order to get some type of fulfillment out of it. Whether that be to laugh, or to cry, or just to feel something in general. We all need that emotional link between us and the show in order for us to be invested into whatever story it's trying to tell. But when that link isn't there, it leaves you with this empty feeling, making you question why you even started watching in the first place. And that's the feeling I had with most anime at the time. It wasn't because I didn't like anime. No, I adore shows like Dragon Ball Z and Naruto. But when it comes to watching anime outside those two, I'm lost. And yeah, I know there's an abundance of good anime out there. Trust me, my friends at the time wouldn't let me hear the end of it. But even with the recommendations, I could never really push myself to broaden my horizons. And in my mind, I was okay with that. I was okay with being stuck in a bubble of familiarity. Just because my friends enjoy that in one anime doesn't mean I'll enjoy it. What if I start watching and end up hating it? What if it doesn't click? What if it's all just a waste of time? Those would be the thoughts and anxieties that would cloud my mind for most of my life. However, this mindset would soon change when I was introduced to a show that would become one of my favorite animes of all time. And that anime was Yu Yu Hakusho. Whoa, hold on. That doesn't mean my relationship with the show didn't have a rocky start. My first real introduction to Yu Yu Hakusho started through my brother-in-law who, just like me, is an anime head. So from time to time we would occasionally sit and watch various anime together, most of the time being Naruto. And for a while that was our tradition, until one day my brother-in-law decided to watch something different. And it came without warning either, cause I sat down with the intention of seeing Naruto pop up on screen, but instead I see this green jumpsuit Yakuza fucker, and it baffled me for obvious reasons, but I'll move on from that. I later found out that my brother-in-law was watching throughout the latter half of the Dark Tournament saga. And you know what? I was gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. He's an anime veteran. He knows a lot more about the genre than I do, so he's bound to have found some type of masterpiece. So I decided I was gonna push through this. I was gonna drop all my skepticisms, all my phobias about watching new anime, and actually enjoy this show. I won't lie and say I didn't go into Yu Yu Hakusho with the mindset that I was going to dislike it. I don't know, a lot of things just turned me off in this anime. The art style for one looked old and the character designs just looked jarring to me. Especially here, because every time he show up on screen I'd be reminded of another character from an anime I'd rather be watching at the moment. And you might be saying, well Mega, you're just nitpicking, you're not even giving a valid reason as to why you dislike the show. And you'd be right for saying that, because all I did was nitpick. I didn't know jack shit about the plot or exactly what these characters were fighting for. And on top of that, I only watched 2 episodes relatively far into the anime at that point, so any type of backstory or context used to set up these events is completely thrown out the window. But even with those facts, I could still never really invest myself into this anime. And maybe I didn't give it the fairest of chances, but 2 episodes was enough for me to put it down completely for a while. And for a while it was, as I didn't pick up the show again until a year later. But Mega, you may ask, didn't you just state you disliked the anime? What sort of bombastic sorcery would merit a return to something like this? Well, it's really simple actually. The music. If there's one thing I can take away from Yu Yu Hakusho, it would be its phenomenal soundtrack. It's such a melodic collection of music, full of a lot of great musical tracks that honestly deserves a video on its own. I would constantly find myself listening to these songs on a daily basis, continuously growing a love for the soundtrack. Which is kind of ironic because I love a soundtrack to a show that I firmly disliked at the time. However, through this love, I would start to question the context behind the music of Yu Yu Hakusho. What type of scene or event would warrant this type of music, this type of sound design? It had me curious. And through that curiosity would spark a new interest in the anime for me. For the first time in months, I wanted to watch this show again. So I popped up a totally legal anime website, started the episode, and... Wow! Anyways, after that shocking revelation, we're introduced to our protagonist, Yusuke Urameshi, as he finds himself sleeping beside the street lines after getting Yusuke regains consciousness as a ghost, and after failing multiple times to get the attention of the paramedics, he tries to remember the events that led up to his eventual demise. Immediately, we're catapulted into Yusuke's school life, with the starting scene focusing on a schoolgirl seemingly heading towards the rooftop. And to our surprise, we find our boy Yusuke chilling by the door.
Hey, nice skirt.
We later find out that the schoolgirl is actually Yusuke's childhood friend Keiko, who may or may not have romantic feelings for him. Just a hunch. And by the look on her face, it didn't seem like she wants to be all buddy-buddy with our pal Yusuke. And after nagging him for an assortment of things, mostly on his poor attendance, Yusuke does his annual panty check and gets... As Yusuke recovers from his panty parade, the show for a brief moment shifts to the view on Keiko and her friends. Which makes me wonder how this even correlates to what Yusuke is trying to remember. He's not even in the scene for this part. How is he able to remember something that he wasn't even present to experience in the first place? But you know what? I'll let it slide because it actually does dwell into the grand scope of how Yusuke's classmates perceive him. And judging on how Keiko's friends are hiding behind a wall looking terrified, I can safely say Yusuke's reputation isn't the greatest. Keiko's friends go on to express their concerns about Yusuke, even questioning why she would hang out with someone like him. But like I said before, Keiko's a childhood friend of Yusuke, so any kind of facade that he puts on is instantly broken down by her because she knows that man. But her friends continue to push on, claiming Yusuke's a gang leader, that he has goons ready to shoot on sight. And Keiko's over here like, if y'all don't release yourselves from this genjutsu Yusuke put y'all in? She then goes on to explain that Yusuke's bad boy nature is bullshit, and that he's actually a lot nicer than what he puts on. And you might think, well, with that surprising revelation, they don't really have a reason to be scared anymore, right? Wrong. Keiko's friends completely disregard her words, pretty much telling her that they know her childhood friend better than she does. Keiko, I think it's time for some new friends, because the ones you have right now are a special type of specimen. Leaving off from that, the episode shifts back to Yusuke, loitering around the school grounds, when he comes across two of his classmates talking over a situation that resulted in them acquiring a wallet.
He just dropped it and ran.
Well, what are you gonna do if Urameshi finds out you said that cousin stuff? He'll kill you!
He'll spare me. That blockhead will probably think it's true. Hey, what's wrong?
Right as Yusuke is about to catch two bodies, professional asshead Iwamoto comes in to save the day. And after a very brief examination of the situation, he comes to the conclusion that Yusuke is mugging his classmates.
I see. Yusuke was beating you two up for your wallets. Typical scum behavior.
Whatever!
No good weeds like you should have been plucked a long time ago. You don't belong here.
You shouldn't talk. It makes you sound stupid.
You know, when I first saw this scene, I always wondered why Yusuke just didn't clear his name. But after rewatching this scene again, for the sake of this video, I can safely say Iwamoto's a dickhead that probably won't take anything Yusuke says as truth. Hopping back on topic, Yusuke makes his exit after supposedly getting kicked out by Iwamoto. But when he reaches the front gates, however, he's stopped by the president from Sonic X, Principal Takanaka. What? Give me a break, come on. I'm right, they look nearly identical. Also, I failed to mention this, but throughout the episode, starting from Keiko going up to the rooftop to when Yusuke gets kicked out, this man Takanaka has been blowing up the intercom all day calling for this man Yusuke. And in Yusuke's fashion, he claims he didn't hear it. But Takanaka was already seen through all that cap, and he was not having it. Grabs this man by the ear and forcefully pulls his ass back on school grounds. And just when you think Yusuke's beat, there's no way he's getting out of this situation, the unthinkable happens.
It's just a toy, old man.
The old dummy ear trick. Gets him every time. Yusuke leaves the school grounds and returns home, which wouldn't be my personal ditch spot, but okay, Yusuke, be bold, I guess. Yusuke meets his mom at home, and I'm over here thinking, yo, Yusuke's better get his ass beat. But this episode has already subverted my expectations so many times that I'm really ready for anything at this point. And what do you know, Yusuke doesn't get in trouble at all. In fact, it doesn't even seem like his mom cares that her son is ditching class. And yeah, I will comment that she does question Yusuke on his absence from school, but she isn't as pressed about it as other parents would be. Anyways, Yusuke explains to his mom that the only reason why he isn't present at school right now is because everyone pissed him off. And his mom is like, well, if you're not going to be useful at school, then you might as well be useful at a job. And that one fucking line, shakes Yusuke so much that he leaves the house in a fit of rage.
I swear, could this day possibly get any stupider?
Well, there's your answer, Yusuke. The head honcho of this ambush is revealed to be Kuwabara, and it looks like he's got one too many bones to pick with our boy Yusuke. But what Kuwabara didn't know is that he had crossed paths with a very pissed off Urameshi. After beating Kuwabara's ass for the 130th time, Yusuke walks further into the city when a ball belonging to a little boy reaches his feet, and after the boy asks for his ball back, Yusuke proceeds to yell at him for even considering playing ball by a busy street, which is kinda surprising considering his track record up to this point. Yusuke then realizes, oh shit, I just screamed at a vulnerable child, and proceeds to start making faces to cheer up the boy, which leads up to whatever that is, and leaves the boy with his ball, hoping that his short words left a lasting impact, and the boy kicks the ball into the street. I don't even want to explain this section. Just play the scene and get it over with.
Hey!
Hey, watch out!
After all that reminiscing, Yusuke finally realizes that he's a ghost, which is kind of odd considering the fact that he punches through a whole man, saw his body get laid out on the street, and is currently floating 10 feet in the air. You'd think that'd raise a few red flags? But whatever, guess we all learn and observe in our own pace. After Yusuke comes to the shocking realization that he's not living, he's greeted by, wait! Hold on, just one fucking second. Who is this immaculate beauty I've just laid my eyes upon? I know I'm diverting from the topic, but god damn, she's the full package. That hair, those eyes, and the face? Don't even get me started on the face, man. She is just a beautiful, beautiful piece of work. If that's just waiting for me in the afterlife, then I don't think I want to live anymore. Anyways, the baddie reveals herself to be Botan, and she's pretty much the show's version of the Grim Reaper.
A pretty girl like you? Please, you're no Grim Reaper.
That's what I said. After Botan explains her mechanics, and outright exposing my mans, Yusuke insists on seeing if the boy's okay. But what he didn't know is that upon visiting the child, he would end up finding out the tragic truth about his death. You see, Botan explains to Yusuke that because of his bad and selfish nature, no one in Spirit World actually expected him to save the boy. And that's not all. No, that's not all. You're gonna get a kick out of this. You know how the car that was heading directly towards the boy, right? The car that was like inches away from fucking splattering him? You see, if Yusuke hadn't intervened, the car would have veered to the left, and the boy would have escaped with fewer injuries than he got when Yusuke saved him. Which means,
Your death was a complete and utter waste!
if that isn't the most goddamn bullshit written way to go, then I don't know what is. You're telling me that nobody in Spirit World predicted any of this? That they just went out on a whim and expected Yusuke to turn his cheek because of personality? Give me a freaking break. Anyway, after that very unfortunate and terrible turn of events, Botan gives Yusuke an ultimatum in the form of an ordeal that would grant him his life back. And it would seem everything works out. Yusuke gets his life back, everything goes back to normal. What could possibly go wrong? God damn it, Yusuke! I just offended your ass! I exposed Spirit World for their incompetence, and this is what you do to me! You fuck! You've just been given a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that millions, no, billions of deceased people would kill for. Granted, they're dead, but still you get the point. People want that shit. But no, you'd rather be dead. Fuck you, Yusuke. Why am I so fucking mad? All jokes aside, Yusuke actually does give a reason as to why he doesn't want to go through with the ordeal. But that reason would reveal a more depressing side of the character. And to really sum up his words, he believes that the world would be better off without him. Throughout the episode, we see Yusuke's life and his antics, how he treats people around him, and in turn, how those people perceive him as a person. But in this case, Yusuke acknowledges, or should I say believes, that he's caused nothing but misery for the people around him, and that his absence would make them rejoice because they don't have to deal with someone like him anymore. And look, I know there's probably loads of anime out there that have tackled this sort of thing already, but for me, this was the first time I'd seen a character actively call themselves out on something like this. It was the first time I'd seen a character feel that they weren't good enough for the world. It was real. Too real. Which segues into the reason why I warmed up to this show so much. The wake scene. Botan decides to leave Yusuke to attend his own wake in order for him to reevaluate his decision, and when he arrives, he's surprised to see so many of his classmates attending, but that shock would soon turn to pessimism as he hastily comes to the conclusion that his classmates are only there in attendance for extra credit. However, this mindset would soon change when Keiko comes out of the wake room breaking down in tears, practically screaming out his name, which stuns Yusuke into disbelief. How could this person have caused so much trouble to cry so much over my death? But even that doesn't compare to the next scene that plays out after that.
What? Kuwabara?
Damn you! You think you can just back out because you're scared!
Kuwabara, this place is for mourning.
I'm not gonna leave. Not until he comes out of here and lets me fight him.
He can't do that.
I'm gonna beat you down, you punk! You hear me? Who do you think you are, huh? Dirty punk! Who am I gonna fight now? Who am I gonna fight?
He's gone.
No! You're supposed to be here. For me.
Come on, Kuwabara. Let's go. Sorry about all that.
No! No!
Who would have guessed?
I'm not crying. You're crying. I think out of all the scenes between the characters in this part, Kuwabara's is the one that impacts me the most. You can feel the utter distraught and raw emotion Kuwabara outputs over the death of his friend and rival. You can tell he had nothing but love and respect for Yusuke, and that his loss only leaves an empty void that no one else could fill. And Yusuke, who's watching this transpire from above, starts to realize that maybe the people around him don't hate him. Well, except for these two. Look, I know I'm supposed to be all serious and stuff, but I cannot believe they came all the way to this man's wake just to talk shit. Let me put it into perspective. These are grown-ass men. Grown-ass men praying for the downfall of a child. Do y'all not have lives to live? Wives to fuck? Cause y'all both got way too much fucking time on your hands to be worrying about a damn teenager. You know what? This reminds me of that one meme where that man was like, just stop by my biggest hater's funeral just to make sure he's dead. That's exactly what these two fuckos are doing. Even Yusuke's flabbergasted by the amount of tomfoolery coming out of their mouths. And the worst part about this situation is that he can't do a thing about...
What do you suppose is more disgraceful, that boy shouting in misery or your insensitive and idiotic words?
Takanaka? Yeah, Takanaka actually came through and put these two fucktates in their place. You know, I always knew he had a good aura around him. It never seemed like he was out to get Yusuke and always wanted to see the best out of him, which is evident by the words that he gives to Yusuke at his altar.
At first I was so surprised, Yusuke. To hear you'd saved a kid at the cost of your own life. You've always acted much more selfishly than that. Darn. Yusuke, I don't know why I don't feel like speaking well of you. Why didn't you stay? You could have made something great out of yourself.
As Takanaka begins to weep, so does Yusuke's mom, who I wouldn't be surprised is hurting the most from this. And what follows is the arrival of the little boy who Yusuke gave his life to save. And I think the saddest part about this scene is how the boy is too young to understand the scope of Yusuke's passing, going as far as to ask his mom if he can play with him tomorrow, not knowing that Yusuke was gone for good.
Do you think it'd be okay if I played with that boy tomorrow? If I'm good?
No, son.
I know some people sounded angry at him, but he's really nice. He made really funny faces at me, too, and he got me my ball. I don't know why those people were crying like that. It was probably because they wanted to play with him, too.
Oh.
And with all that, everything comes full circle. All the events that happened today led up to this very moment. Every interaction Yusuke had and misunderstood and flipped right back on his head. Everything he thought he knew was wrong. The way he thought people perceived him was wrong. And in that very moment, Yusuke realizes that people genuinely care about his well-being. And it took dying to finally realize that fact. It's difficult to explain how much this scene means to me without getting into some sentimental territory. Finding the right words to say regarding this part has been one of the hardest tasks thus far for me, and an even harder task to explain my feelings in a way in which people can relate to. And as I'm currently still writing this, I'm still conflicted on how to go about explaining those feelings. What stream of words or sentences can I use to convey how powerful and impactful this scene was to me? And then it hit me. The reason why I couldn't find the right words was because there weren't any to begin with. All this scene was to me is unspoken emotion. The only thing I can convey is that in that moment, I was linked with Yusuke. I could feel his emotions, his insecurities, and his disbeliefs as he watched the people he thought would rejoice over his death, mourn over his loss. And I think I had that connection because I could see a little bit of myself in Yusuke. A stupid kid that carried this toxic and naive belief that he would be better off erased from this world, and never once considered how his friends or his loved ones would react in his absence, continuing to carry on these uncanny thoughts that they hated him, when in fact, they needed him just as much as he needed them.
Well, have you decided?
Botan? Hey,
Yes, dear.
have you ever not known about something that seemed obvious to everybody else?
That happens to us all, I think. So are you ready now?
Yeah, I am.
I'm glad I gave this show another chance. I'm glad that I set aside my gripes and biases to really see how great of a show this really was. It impacted me in a way in which no other anime had ever done before, and it allowed me to take away a lesson in which I'll never forget. I specifically chose this episode in particular because it was really the deciding factor in me continuing this anime. And for a pilot episode, it really did a good job in establishing the characters that would eventually become staples in the series. In one episode alone, we see Yusuke's outlook on life completely change. He finally realizes that his friends, his family, and even his teacher wants him back. And in that final moment, when Yusuke tells Botan that he wants to be alive, it made me want to see more of this story, more of this character, how he comes back to life, and how it eventually leads up to a fight with strong subs over here. Anyways, my final takeaway from this is, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't automatically assume an anime is terrible because of its outward appearance, or even because of a bad personal experience. I honestly believe if I hadn't given Yu Yu Hakusho the chance I gave it that day, then I don't think I'd be as open-minded to anime as I am in the present. And to anyone who's had the same viewpoints and experiences I had when it comes to watching new anime, or even a TV show for that matter, I'd say give it another look. And yeah, I know it might be difficult, and it might be a waste of time, and you might not even want to do it. But trust me when I say, you'll find something in that story to enjoy. I mean, if I can do it, then so can you. You just have to be willing to take that journey, regardless of its cons. And as I conclude this episode, younger me realizes that this is only the beginning of a long, driven-out journey through Yu Yu Hakusho. Welp, all's well that ends well.
You know exactly why I'm here.
Look, I don't have time for this.
So after 2 years of complete and utter silence, you thought you could just whip out a video from nowhere, without even inviting me.
You know, it's real funny you say that, Ultrafan, considering the fact that I never invite you to any of my videos. And plus, while we're on the topic of it, I personally don't think you'd fit that well in this type of content.
Oh, okay, I see now. You don't think I'm professional enough for your videos, huh?
Well, I didn't say that.
Well, sorry, I'm too much of a scrub to be a part of one of your grand, spectacular films, Mr. Perfect. Oh, look at me, I'm Mega. I'm so multi-talented. Look at how my colors seemingly blend with the same monochromatic background. Well, you know what, Mega? You know what? I think you're full of shit.
I honestly don't know why I put up with this. What?
You know, you got some nerve cutting me off like that mid-rant. Just shows how much of a pussy you really are.
Oh, can you please just leave me alone for one goddamn minute? I mean, come on, is that so hard to ask?
Oh, cry me a river, Clon. I wouldn't have to do this shit if you actually let us collaborate for once.
How many times do I have to tell you, Ultra Fan, you wouldn't be a good fit for this type of content? So stop asking me.
How can you say that when you never even gave me a fair chance to begin with?
Because I know you, Ultra Fan, and I know you'll just do the exact opposite of everything I tell you.
Well, you're not wrong, but still give me a chance at least.
No.
But I'm bored.
Not my problem.
Come on, please.
No.
Pretty please?
No.
Pretty please with a cherry on top?
What are you, 5?
No, but if that's the level I have to go down to in order to get a spot in your video, then so be it.
This is so stupid.
You can't blame anyone here but yourself.
You know what? I give up. Obviously, you're not gonna leave, and obviously, I can't get rid of you. So you can be in this next video, alright?
Wait, really? Like right now?
Yes.
Wow. That was easier than I thought it was.
On one condition.
Oh boy, I knew there was gonna be a catch.
Don't talk while I'm talking. Don't make any unnecessary comments. Matter of fact, don't even breathe, alright?
You know that's 3 conditions, right?
What did I just say?
Alright, I was just saying, jeez. I'll shut my trap.
Okay. I'm gonna get straight to the point. I was not the biggest fan of RPGs. I never liked the whole grinding and turn-based aspects of it. I always felt like the rules of these games force you only make things more slow and tedious for players. And before you go running to the comments prepared to crucify me for my criticisms, I'm well aware that those aspects are purposeful to the challenge of the game, but honestly, I felt like it made the simplest of tasks, such as fighting an enemy, more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, why do I have to take turns trading shot with the enemy? Why can't I just fight the enemy head on without having every one of my attacks being based on luck? It just never made any sense to me. You see, I'm the type of guy that likes constant action when playing a video game. I like when the game keeps on moving you forward without any roadblocks or aspects slowing down the overall experience. You can say I'm more of an active player than a thinking one. Being headfirst in the action is a whole lot more interesting than watching. And it can be argued that the turn-based battle mechanics in RPGs is the main action of the game, but in my opinion it never really looked or felt actiony to me, if that's even a word. Sure, I would see my characters hurt the enemy, but I would never feel the impact of those attacks. Like I was on the sidelines commanding an army that only 50% of the time actually hits their target. These overarching problems would influence how I looked at other games in the RPG genre. Some of these games I found, such as Persona, Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy, and so many more games in the genre, looked and sounded interesting to me from a storytelling and art style point. But the only thing that was really holding me back from playing them was that they were RPGs. And one of those games in that list just so happened to be Earthbound. You see, Earthbound was one of those games I watched more than I played. I knew so much about its history, lore, and its overall impact on the gaming community without even touching it once. I guess you could call it indirectly playing the game. I mean, I did the same with Zelda after all.
Hold on, wait, hold on just 1 minute. You've never played The Legend of Zelda?
No, why?
What the hell is wrong with you?
What do you mean what's wrong with me? You're acting like it's not normal for people to have never played a Zelda game before.
It's not normal. You're really gonna sit here and tell me you haven't played not a single one? Not even Breath of the Wild?
0.
Weirdo. Anyways.
Did you just call me a weirdo?
Anyways. What exactly got you to play Mother 2 anyway?
It's Earthbound.
It's actually Mother.
Whatever. Honestly, I can't pinpoint a reason for why I decided to play Earthbound. I mean, it just kinda happened out of the blue. Maybe I was influenced by a review, or maybe some of the constants the game had to offer. I can't really say for sure, but what I can say is that when I did play Earthbound for the first time, I went in with a clear mind, free from any biases or discrepancies that I had with the genre at the time. And I will admit that it was a little intimidating at first getting myself entangled with an RPG game, but when I started playing it, it actually wasn't that bad. Oh, who am I kidding? This game was amazing! The story, the atmosphere, the many characters and townspeople you visit is such a spectacle to experience. The game feels like an adventure from the very start, constantly throwing new objectives and situations in your face at any given moment. The combat is surprisingly satisfying, the scenarios are actually funny, and the overall presentation is just fantastic.
Okay. Do you feel good now that you finally got that out of your system?
Yeah.
Okay. Now do me a favor and say that sentence again without sounding like an absolute geek.
Oh, you have no room to talk, Ultra Fan. You are literally the embodiment of a goddamn geek.
I am most certainly not. I might be a nerd, but I am most definitely not a geek.
What's the difference?
A nerd is a dignified individual who quietly enjoys one or more topics, while a geek is an obsessive bore who shoves their geekish ideas into everyone's faces.
You know what? I'm just gonna pretend this whole conversation didn't just happen and get back to talking about Earthbound, alright?
I'm not a geek.
Anyway, one of the first things that caught my eye was Earthbound's overall battle system. It has your normal attacks, healing magic, and all that RPG mumbo-jumbo you know so well about. But with those aspects aside, the combat is surprisingly fast, with battles usually taking less than a minute to finish, depending on the enemy or how strong your characters are. It's also really satisfying to get a high number of damage or hear the sound when you get a critical on the enemy. Another thing I like about Earthbound's battle system is how you encounter enemies in the overall. You see, there's 3 ways to trigger a battle: neutral, player advantage, and enemy advantage. The names kinda speak for themselves. A neutral battle is just a normal battle with both sides having equal amounts of chances to attack, and it's activated when you or an enemy face each other head on. A player advantage battle is activated when you attack the enemy from behind, ultimately giving you the first few hits in the battle. But to make things fair, the enemies also have that ability as well, as if an enemy attacks you from behind, they have the first move, and you don't want that to happen, especially when you go against the higher leveled enemies. I think this mechanic in a lot of ways keeps the battle balanced between both parties, and it allows you to gain the upper hand in battle in some cases. Another huge thing I like about Earthbound is its super simple premise. You're a young boy named Ness who gets appointed by a magical bee from the future named Buzz to save the world from an overarching evil known as Gygus. But you're not alone on this journey, as you're joined with a psychic girl named Paula, a genius mechanic named Jeff, and a prince who's also psychic named Pooh. I'm sure the developers had a fun time coming up with that name. Your main objective throughout the game is to absorb the 8 melodies from each corresponding sanctuaries, which are located in different parts of the world using a soundstone given to you by a dying Buzz, whose death is nothing short of hilarious. I mean, in the beginning we're shown that this bee is an all-powerful insect that literally takes on a Starman Jr., who, at your current level at that time, is one of the strongest enemies you've faced yet. And then he just gets fucking bitch slapped by Pokey's mom. It's one of the most unexpected moments for me in this game, and it would set the tone for the rest of this game moving forward. I don't think I gotta explain how weird and bizarre Earthbound can get at some points. I mean, for one, the enemy designs are just all over the place. I mean, you fight a goddamn taxi in a road sign, for Christ's sakes. You could be going down a normal path in a normal town, and then you suddenly find yourself in a village full of some questionable cultists with the overfixation around the color blue. Or you'll stumble across a valley full of creatures that all go by the name Mr. Saturn. This game never runs short of surprises and unexpected moments for me, and it's honestly the reason why I find its world so enthralling. Wish I could say the same for the characters though. Look, when it comes to combat, the main party gets the job done, especially Jeff. That man is just OP. But when it comes to actually being characters, well, they just suck. They don't talk, they don't interact with each other, they don't even react to anything unless the plot demands it. I think the closest thing we've gotten to any kind of emotion from these characters is when Photo Man appears to take their picture, and Ness is the only one that poses in it. Look, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and say that this was an intentional design choice, but still, why though? It would have been so cool to see Ness and his friends make little comments here and there about their current situation or their surroundings. You know, to add some character to them. But complaining aside, those small details won't smother my enjoyment of Earthbound. In fact, I would say having the characters be mute for most of the game adds a lot more emphasis to the world of Earthbound. Every town, city, or valley you visit has its own distinct flair to it, packed with a variety of interesting landmarks and townspeople. You can easily tell the difference between Onet from Threed, or Winters from Summers. They all have their own special significance to the plot and identity that allows them to stand out from one another. One example I can give of this is a place I kinda briefly discussed already, the Valley of the Saturns, or Saturn Valley as it's written in the game. I found this area to be the most bizarre compared to every other place you visit in this game. For one, the creatures that inhabit the area look like tiny little blobs with big noses and whiskers. And to add on to their wackiness, the font in which their text is formatted in is a bunch of squiggly letters that look like a first grader wrote it. Those little details give Saturn Valley its identity, and it's still why I remember it as much as I do today. Another thing I like about Earthbound's world is its overall design and setting. Unlike other RPGs that theme their world behind fantasy, Earthbound goes for a more semi-realistic style to its world. A lot of the areas you visit in this game are based off of real places, like for example, Winters is based off of England and Scotland, and the deserts of Scraba are based off of ancient Egypt. I really like this design choice because it makes the world feel a lot more grounded and close to home, if that makes any sense. But one thing that I just can't seem to grasp is all these things and all these places have all these cover names like Foggy Land and Eagle Land and all that, and then just Stonehenge. It just comes out of nowhere. The line was drawn, and it was drawn at Stonehenge. All jokes aside though, another big thing that I like about Earthbound is its cast aside and supporting characters that you meet along your journey. And one of those characters, or should I say group of characters that come to mind, were the band members of Runaway 5. For most of the game, you're helping these guys pay off their debts to some greedy landlords and stage owners. And this always humored me because of how a group of performers literally rely on a 12-year-old kid to help pay off their debts. And now that I think about it, a lot of people in this game rely on Ness and his friends to help out. I get he's a shout of prophecy and everything, but what regular person's gonna know that? No person's gonna be like, these shouldn't have a busting light upon them. Let me acquire their likeness so they may aid me in my endeavors. Like, nobody's gonna say that.
Don't you think you're looking into it a little too hard?
No, I think it's a pretty normal thing to ponder on. I mean, you wouldn't go ask some random kid on the street to do some big favor for you now, would you?
Depends on the kid.
Are you serious?
Yeah, there's a lot of rich and spectacular kids out there, and if they're offering their services to me without anything in return, why should I question it? It's free labor.
Wow. I actually can't argue that. That's crazy. Adding on to the onslaught of Earthbound's cast of characters, the random townspeople that you visit along the way are nothing short of hilarious. Every scenario and situation you find yourself in, there's always a townsperson with a clever line or a wacky take on a situation. One, if not the funniest things I've seen a townsperson say. Not even a supporting character, just a random background character at a Runaway 5 concert, and she just for no reason just obliterates her husband with this line. Absolutely no chill. And we've only scratched the surface of Earthbound's many comedic moments. I don't think I have to tell you that this game does not take itself seriously, and it's not afraid of embracing it. This game probably has one of the wackiest and out of this world scenarios that still stick to me to this day. I don't want to spend hours going over the crazy shenanigans that you'll find yourself in this game, so only focus on the one that I found the funniest. You see, you and the gang are in the desert, and you have to help this miner clear out 5 big moles that are underneath the dig site. But the real funny thing about this whole situation is that all 5 moles think that they're the 3rd strongest mole amongst themselves. It's gotta be one of the most ridiculous shit I've seen in this game, which is saying a lot because this game has a lot of ridiculous shit in it. But I think the thing that really puts the icing on this beautiful cake is that after you finish defeating all the numerically moronic moles and make your way to Foreside, the miner's brother comes and tells you that they only found a diamond in the most nonchalant way possible, and gives it to you like it's some worthless artifact. Even the random people surrounding the dig site are bummed out that only a singular diamond was found in the mine. Oh heavens no, they only found a diamond? What a bunch of amateurs, am I right?
For shame.
For shame indeed. Moving on from that, I want to bring up another aspect of Earthbound that I can say has changed my overall viewpoint of RPGs as a whole. And that aspect is how Earthbound handles its progression. One of the things I really like about Earthbound is how much control you have over your progression. The game a lot of the time kinda lets you go at your own pace, and never penalizes you for going off the beaten path. And yeah, the game at some points gives you an objective to complete in order to progress the story, but it's kinda more of a steer in the right direction than it is a forceful command. The same goes for battling enemies and gaining levels. You don't have to fight every enemy in the game, and you don't have to grind endlessly for levels. Is it encouraged? Yes. But is it necessary? Not really. It's possible to beat the game with minimal grinding, but if you want to be extra careful with the boss encounters and gain access to all the stronger abilities early, then by all means, go for it. Last but not least, the thing that really sells how good Earthbound's progression is how the game masterfully shows your progress through enemy activity. You see, when you and your party reach a higher level than the enemies in that area, they'll suddenly run away from you. It's actually a lot more prominent when you defeat a Sanctuary Guardian, because after you beat one, all the enemies in the area begin to run away from you. And another cool perk under that whole character progression arc thing is that if you confront an enemy that's weaker than you, your character instantly kills the enemy without even being sent to a battle screen. It's one of the little things I appreciate from this game. It actually makes me feel like I'm getting stronger than something or someone telling me that I am getting stronger. The developers had no reason to add small details like this, but in them doing that delivers a stronger message that you are getting better in every step of the way.
So
what?
that's it? Nothing else? You're just leaving it like that?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, I still have to talk about the ending and get my final takeaway on the subject, and then I can say the video is finished.
And you don't think you're missing anything else?
What are you getting at?
Well, sorry to be that guy, but where are the negatives?
The what now?
The negative aspects of Mother 2, you numbnut!
How was I supposed to know you were alluding to that?
I don't know, maybe put 2 and 2 together, you dickwad!
You calling me a dickwad? You literally said one word and expected me to get it right away. If anything, you're the dickwad here, dickwad.
Oh, I see you flip my words against me! Clever maneuver, clown. Real clever!
I don't think you realize how much of an infuriating person you really are.
Oh, I'm well aware, but that's not really that important. Are you gonna talk about the negatives or not?
If I talk about it, will it get you to shut up?
No promises!
I hate you so much. For as much as I praised Earthbound for the last 15 minutes, I cannot deny that there are some aspects of this game I just did not enjoy. So I'm gonna briefly go over all the things that I didn't like about Earthbound. The inventory system. It sucks ass. You can only carry but so many items in your backpack before you inevitably lose space. And plus, all your necessities such as your ATM card, town map, soundstone, and all your equipable items take up almost half of your inventory space. And you might be saying to yourself, well, it can't be that bad. I mean, you still have some of your space left for all your extra stuff, right? And then here's the part where I subvert your whole expectations. You can't stack items! Every item in the game, including food, takes up its own inventory slot, and it's annoying as hell, especially when you want to pick up more valuable items. And before you tell me about the other party members, yes, I'm well aware that they act as a sort of upgrade to your storage, but the same storage issues apply to them as well, meaning that their storage will fill up just as fast as yours. Escargot Express. The quote-unquote remedy to your storage problem. But knowing that it's already on this list can tell you that it sucks too. This delivery service that your sister works at allows you to store some of your miscellaneous items from your inventory. But the problem with that is that you have to call these people every time you want to store something, and you only have a limit of 3 items they can take off your hand. So you have to be very careful on what you want to store. It honestly gets super tedious when you have to contact and wait for Escargot Express to show up at your location. And heavens no, if you press the wrong option on your phone, because once they're sent out, you gotta wait for them to show up, tell them you fucked up, call them again, wait 30 more seconds for them to show up, and then proceed to do the same shit you wanted to do when you called them the first time. It's stuff like that that really annoyed me throughout my playthrough of Earthbound, and honestly, if I were you, I would just teleport to Onet and store my items with my little sister. It's free of charge, there's no 3-item limit bullshit, and it's overall an easier way of storing your items. Until it gets full and shit. Peaceful Rest Valley. Fuck this level, fuck this level, fuck this level. Stonehenge Base. Fuck this level, fuck this level, fuck this level, fuck this level, fuck townspeople AI. Move out of my goddamn way. The bicycle. What's the point of this? Photo Man. Monkey Cave Exchange. I personally think this is one of the more weaker parts of the game. This whole monkey cave section, in my opinion, feels like a necessary filler to pad out an already long and driven out section of the game. You see, your objectives, yes, objectives, are to retrieve this trout yogurt dispenser thing and meet up with this wise old man at the very end of this cave. But the only thing that's really stopping you from getting there is an onslaught of monkeys blocking every pathway in the cave. And instead of beating them up like you would do any other creature that crosses your path, you have to give each of these monkeys a specific item of their request in order to progress further into the cave. And this is where my problems derive from. It's not the fact that we have to find and give specific items to these monkeys that bothers me. It's the fact that the process of doing so is so plainly uneventful and monotonous. There wasn't a challenge, there weren't any big enemies to face off against. It was literally just give this monkey this item they want, progress further, find this other thing this other monkey wanted, and then go back and give said monkey the item they want. And you see where I'm getting at? It just wasn't fun to me. But I think by far the biggest annoyance I've had with this game was not from something, but from someone. And that someone was Pokey. This fat, prepubescent motherfucker gives you the absolute most trouble in this game. Every scene he's in just pisses me off because of how much of an unlikable little shit he is. He's always halting your progression, he's always calling in names, and he's always for some reason one step ahead of you in every situation. I don't even care if he was under Geiger's control in some of these situations because he's been like this from the very start. This man comes and knocks on your door in the middle of the night just to go see some space rock and doesn't even help you fight the onslaught of enemies in your way. Everyone in your party at that point put in some kind of effort in fighting the enemy, while Pokey just sits back and complains about nothing. God, I swear Pokey is literally the walking, breathing definition of the fucking neighbor's kid.
Oh, but Mega, have some sympathy for him. He's just a kid.
Nah, fuck that. He called me a loser. But all jokes and complaints aside, the issues I listed down were more or less minor problems I had with Earthbound, and in no way ruined my overall positive experience with this game. There you happy now, Ultra Fan? I went over everything I disliked about this game. So do me a favor now and shut up so I can finish my goddamn video, alright? Carry on, I guess. The journey has been a long one. So long, in fact, that I honestly forgot it would all soon come to an end. I was so attached to everything that Earthbound had to offer to the point where I didn't want it to end. But alas, my progression would inevitably bring me closer to the finale of this game. After you defeat the last Sanctuary Guardian and record the final melody into your Soundstone, you're teleported to the dreamlike world of Magican, where you see many creatures, people, and enemies you've interacted with throughout your adventure. But as you get deeper into Magican, things start to get hostile, as enemies start appearing on the pathways. But that's okay, because you have these humanoid bird creatures known as flying men, who are supposed to be a representation of your courage, that can help you through battles. But as you get deeper into Magican, you find yourself in the Sea of Eden, where you find the Mani Mani statue, which I forgot to tell you is the main catalyst for many of the obstacles you face throughout your campaign, but let's pretend I've told you this already. But yes, the Mani Mani statue resides in your subconscious, acting as the evil side of yourself you never knew you had. And after indulging in a heated fight with the statue, who uses your signature abilities to kick your ass, you finally defeat the evil inside of you and reach your maximum potential. From there, you wake up surrounded by your friends, and they tell you that while you were sleeping, you kept on mumbling the word Saturn Valley, and that's where you head next. So you teleport to Saturn Valley and find the Apple Kid, Dr. Andonauts, and a Mr. Saturn in front of a newly built phase distorter. But before he can use this machine/ship thing, it needs to be powered using a material known as zeonite, which so happens to be inside of a certain meteor that you found at the beginning of the game in Onet. But once you arrive, you find that Onet has already been ransacked by Geiger's forces, and after vigorously making your way up to the top of the hill, you successfully retrieve the zeonite piece from the meteorite and head back to Saturn Valley. From there, you give Dr. Andonauts the zeonite piece in order to power the phase distorter, and head over to Geiger's supposed location. But once you and everyone else arrive, you're found in another dilemma. Geiger's is actually attacking from the past, and the only way to reach it is for Ness and his friends to transport their brains into metal robots, because the phase distorter can't send physical human bodies into the past. Okay, this is starting to get a little scary. But I mean, what am I worried about? I mean, they're just kids. I mean, surely they wouldn't go through with something like that. I stand corrected. After you and your teammates go through with the operation, you're teleported into the past in order to finally confront Geigus. And holy shit. This section was tense. There were enemies everywhere, the setting was gray and lifeless, and the music that accompanied you during this section was ominous and almost unsettling. It was like something I had never seen in this game before. And really adds to the fact that things from here on out were going to be serious. And after pushing through a huge wave of enemies, you finally make it up to the cave where Gygus is, and man, if this whole section didn't give me chills before, then it most definitely gave me chills now. I mean, we're literally walking down what looks like human intestines. And, wait a minute, is that breathing? Is the cave breathing? Oh my gosh, is this even the same game anymore? But anyways, you make it up to the heart of Gygus, I think. And out of nowhere, Pokey's fat ass comes in to ambush you and your team, which leads to a final showdown between you and him. But once Pokey's finally had enough with us, he reveals Gygus' true form, and honestly, how can I describe this? I'm not the first, and definitely not the last person to talk about this final boss. I mean, what hasn't been said about this fight that hasn't already been discussed, analyzed, and broken down to its very core? It's chaotic, scary, creepy, indescribable, and overall just terrifying. It's such a far cry from every enemy you've encountered so far in this game, which makes Gygus stand on a whole other level. It's not a physical being, it's not your run-of-the-mook villain, it's literally the embodiment of pure evil. I honestly can't imagine being a kid in the 90s playing this little kiddie game with all these cutesy wacky enemies and creatures, and then you end up fighting this shit. But anyways, the final battle starts and you and your party members start attacking Gygus, but you soon realize that any kind of attack you throw doesn't hurt Gygus at all, making you and your team utterly helpless against this formidable force. Even Pokey starts to laugh at your efforts, telling you that your only option now is to pray for your own survival. But unbeknownst to Pokey is exactly what we have to do. So Paula starts to call out to everyone we've met throughout our adventure in order to pray for their survival. And this starts to greatly weaken Gygus. But the more you weaken Gygus, the more chaotic it becomes, which makes things so much more tense, especially with the ear-scorching sounds that accompany the utter chaos of this monstrosity. But even with the combined prayers of your colleagues, it still isn't enough to defeat Gygus. And that's when Paula starts to call out to people outside of her circle, in order for them to aid them in their battle. And this final person, who you've given a random name during your adventure, is what inevitably puts the final nail in the coffin for Gygus. And before I knew it, the game was over. The journey I had spent countless hours and weeks on was finished. Gygus was defeated, everyone in your party goes back to their normal lives, and peace was overall restored to the world. And Although this ending was satisfying and a well-deserved send-off to the game, I still couldn't help but feel a level of emptiness at this game's inevitable conclusion. There were no extra missions or side quests to do to drag out the game. It was just over. And even if I played through the game again and again and again, it still wouldn't carry the same weight as when I experienced it for the first time. Those memories of turning on Earthbound and playing it to its very extent for the first time are memories I can never get back. Memories that I can't ever relive again. My experience with Earthbound has really shifted my view of RPGs as a whole. It made me understand that there's more to this specific genre of gaming than just grinding and tedious tasks. That there are real engaging stories with a variety of interesting characters and settings that make you so much more connected to the game. And while Earthbound's story has unfortunately come to a complete end, more stories began to sprout within the genre for me, and some of those stories would eventually take the spot of Earthbound as being my favorite RPG. But even with that fact, this game will still hold a special place in my heart as the one that started it all. It's finally over.
You see, now, was that so bad?
Yeah, if you don't count for the constant interruptions, going off script, and complete and blatant insubordination, then yeah, I would say it was a jolly old time.
Oh, don't get your balloons in a twist, Pennywise. I know you like having me around. Just admit it already.
Real funny. Didn't know comedy was one of your strong suits, Ultra Fan.
Well, someone's gotta be the comic relief around here. I mean, you aren't doing much of it anyways.
What is that supposed to mean?
You're not funny.
You know what? I've had enough of this for today. Hector, stop the recording.
Hector? Oh no, don't tell me.
I'm honestly surprised it took you this long to figure it out. I mean, you're the one that hacked into it.
I thought I hacked into your TV or something, not this worthless piece of junk.
Hey, I have feelings, you know.
Yeah, sure, real rich coming from a heartless tin can.
Hey, you take that back.
Why, it's true.
Alright, enough already. Can we please wrap this up so I can go to sleep?
Not until he apologizes for that comment he made.
Yeah, let me just go apologize to this talking plastic right here. Or better yet, why don't I just apologize to my phone every time I drop it? Or better yet, why don't I just apologize to every computer and appliance I've replaced in the last 10 years?
Alright, we get it. You don't want to apologize. So can we please stop with this stupid arguing already?
Apologize.
No.
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 Come on,
This is the
apologize.
life
No.
Apologize.
I unfortunately chose to live.